I want to welcome you back to the D-Lo Show. I am your host, Ryan D-Lo Delosier. We're back for another episode of the D-Lo Show here. I want to take some time today to cover a new topic of interest right here. You know, a lot of times I do cover murders and things going on in Yakima, and this is definitely going on in Yakima. There's been a lot of interest lately, actually, in Yakima and around the valley about flock cameras. So I wanted to take some time right here to talk to you about the flock camera situation, what they are, and then how they are being addressed here in Yakima. So if you don't know what they are, or you're curious, or you have opinions about the use of them, well, hopefully this podcast is for you. So stay tuned. All right, flock cameras, they were developed by the security technology company Flock Safety. They're specialized automated license plate readers, so ALPRs. And they're designed to capture vehicle activity and generate searchable, objective data for law enforcement agencies, businesses, and residential communities. Unlike standard traffic or red light cameras that you see up there about a lot of times above, even, you know, if you're driving around and you're using Apple Maps or Google Maps, it'll even say red light camera ahead. You know, you hear those things. These are different. Flock cameras are different. Those cameras, the traffic ones and the red light cameras, they monitor speed or record continuous video to issue automated traffic tickets. These flock cameras, they're solar or hardwire powered, and they give you an AI snapshot in these cameras right here. They have them. They're built specifically to track vehicle characteristics. And how these flock cameras work. So here's what they do. So they use vehicle attribute recognition. The system takes rapid photos of passing vehicles and uses computer vision software to catalog vehicle details beyond the basic, just plate readers that are going there. So this includes the license plate number, as mentioned before, the issuing state, or even the temporary or missing plates, like if it's missing plates to go on. Then they can go through and they can even track the vehicle make and the model, the color, and even the body style of these vehicles as they are driving through and as they're taking these pictures of them. There's also unique identifiers on cars. Like every car is a little different. I mean, there's if you happen to have a 2003 red Chevy pickup truck. Okay, there might be a lot of them on the road. I think they made over 100,000 of them that year. There's probably, going to be several that are also the same color as yours and the same style. So what makes your car unique? Well, could be you have a bumper sticker or some decals, roof racks, any of these aftermarket additions or body damage that goes along with that as well too. These flock cameras can track that as well. So, as they're doing this, so as these flock cameras are recording this data, running it through their computer, they can give real-time hot list alerts. So if a passing vehicle matches an entry on a connected national or local hot list, for example, stolen vehicles, active felony warrants, amber alerts, or vehicles tied to recent crimes, the system sends an instant alert to the local police dispatchers or police officers. Now, there's been a few stories here in Yakima, which I'll cover as well, or in the surrounding area. It also creates, when they're going through this, these flock cameras will create a searchable database. And so investigators can search recorded activity using specific parameters, such as blue pickup truck with a roof rack near 16th Avenue between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. They can plug that in there, filter out a bunch of all the extraneous stuff, and they can identify suspect vehicles quickly without reviewing hours upon hours and days upon days of traditional video. There is supposedly, along with these though, supposedly the flock cameras, they have no driver or facial recognition. So flock cameras are pointed at vehicle traffic and are not designed to capture driver faces. Sure, they don't. They identify individual passengers or use facial recognition technology. So in the Yakima Valley, there's multiple law enforcement agencies throughout our county. Yakima Police Department, there's the Union Gap Police Department, there's Grandview Police Department, CeeLo Police Department, there's others, okay? They've integrated flock ALPR networks into their patrol and investigative workflows. There's also other people using these. So private and commercial integration goes along with this as well. There's neighborhood associations, so HOAs. There's apartment complexes, and local commercial businesses can also lease these flock units. Private entities can choose whether to share their cameras alerts directly with local police departments or not. And then there's data retention policies that go along with these as well. For most public safety agencies, vehicle capture data is automatically encrypted and stored in the cloud for 30 days before being permanently purged unless it's saved as evidence in an ongoing criminal case. So there's actually laws that pertain to this, which I'll cover a little bit later. Okay, so why these draw community interest that go along with this as well, too. So the law enforcement and supporters, and the supporters of that, those actionable leads. So as they're going through this, some of the considerations that go along with this. It provides instant leads in vehicle thefts, property burglaries, hit and runs, and missing person cases. The silver alerts, the amber alerts. There's also, it gives us some efficiency that goes along with this as well, too, resource efficiency. It reduces manual surveillance time. It allows officers to pinpoint suspect travel corridors quickly. It creates crime deterrence because there's a camera up there that is the one-eyed monster up there is showing the one-eyed sky, and the eye in the sky doesn't lie. You know, you look it up there, and it's right there. It tells you what it doesn't have any subjectivity that goes along with it. It just says this is what's happening. So it's a crime deterrence. Visible deployment can act as a deterrent against residential and commercial property issues. Those are some of the supporters. The critics are typically privacy advocates that go along with this. So there's mass surveillance concerns, and organizations like the ACLU argue that dense networks build a searchable record of law-abiding citizens' daily movements without a warrant, hence infringing on our Fourth Amendment right. There's the data sharing and oversight, okay? There's concerns that exist over how broadly data can be shared across state or regional jurisdictions. And there's also the potential misreads that go along with this, because as we know, if you used AI at all, you know that it makes mistakes. And this flock camera relies heavily on AI. Software misreads of plate numbers or state identifiers can lead to unnecessary traffic stops. So a little bit of history here going along with this. I'll cover that next. Flock safety automated license readers first appeared here in Yakima in 2022. When the Yakima Police Department, they began utilizing them. Following their initial rollout, their presence expanded significantly across the Yakima Valley over the next couple of years. So in 2023, there were neighboring agencies in the valley that adopted the technology as well. Departments such as Grandview, Sunnyside, they installed these flock network cameras into their systems as well, into their communities. And in 2024, 2025, the networks rapidly scaled up. By the mid-2025s, the Yakima Police Department alone operated dozens of cameras across the city limits, scaling into an extensive network alongside private, commercial, and HOA deployments across Yakima County. So as the footprint of these cameras grew, they increasingly became a focal point of local public interest, city council discussions, and community debate regarding data privacy and third-party access. So how many flock cameras are there here in Yakima? Well, there's hundreds of flock cameras operating across Yakima County when combining both public and private installations. The footprint is split between law enforcement agencies, and the networks that go along with them, and then also private property. There's the Yakima Police Department, and it launched its network with 22 devices in April of 2022, and that number has scaled significantly over time. So city officials and police leadership reported roughly 87 flock cameras operating directly within the Yakima city limits. And then there's the private and commercial units, and that's roughly half of all the flock cameras operating in the area are privately owned. These are deployed by local businesses, apartment complexes, and residential homeowners associations, those HOAs. Then there's a broader valley scope that goes along with this. So there's the surrounding municipalities of Yakima Valley, such as Grandview, they have about 20 units, Sunnyside, and even Union Gap. They operate their own municipal networks, and the scale of the network yields high volume traffic that goes along with this. YPD's transparency portal routinely logs well over 350,000 unique plate reads every 30 days. As a private citizen, you cannot log in and actively search or operate the Yakima Police Department's live flock camera network. Access to a searchable database is restricted to authorized law enforcement personnel for official investigations. However, you can interact with the access data related to these cameras in a few specific ways. So one of the ways is you can go ahead and go to the YPD Flock Transparency Portal. The Yakima Police Department hosts a public-facing transparency dashboard online via the YPD Open Data Portal. And it provides aggregate metrics to the community, such as the total number of unique license plate reads and user search sessions logged over a rolling 30-day period. You can also do a public records request, and the Washington State court rulings have affirmed that data and images captured by automated license plate readers operated by public agencies are considered public records under the state's Public Records Act. This means citizens can formally submit public records requests to the city or police department for specific logs or data, though the agencies typically redact sensitive or active investigation information. You can also use crowdsource mapped. If you're looking to see where physical cameras are mounted around Yakima Valley, community mapping projects like DFLOC, which is dflock.org, they rely on crowdsourced data to log and plot the physical locations of local, public, and private flock cameras. And that's how I found many of the ones I'm looking at. Check out dflock.org. It's a great place to find out information about flock cameras in your area and across the nation. So you might be wondering, like I was, have flock cameras actually helped solve any cases? And according to Yakima Police Department, yes. Local crime reports go along with that as well, too. Flock cameras have successfully aided law enforcement in tracking suspects and resolving various criminal cases. YPD leadership has routinely pointed to the system's utility in active investigation. Department data and reports indicate that the cameras have been instrumental in stolen vehicle recoveries. They've located and recovered hundreds of stolen vehicles driving through or parked within the city. Violent crimes and major cases have also been solved by using these flock cameras by providing critical vehicle tracking leads in investigations involving violent crimes, assaults, robberies, hit and runs, and homicides. The cameras have also been helpful in locating missing persons, assisting officers in tracking vehicles tied to missing or endangered persons, such as silver or amber alerts, to secure safe recoveries. And then finally, property crimes, generating immediate hot list alerts that help officers intercept suspects connected to retail theft, fraud, and residential property burglaries. While law enforcement regards the technology as a high-yield investigative asset, often resulting in dozens of targeted arrests and vehicle recoveries every month, the system's success is counterbalanced in the public eye by ongoing local debate regarding data privacy, over surveillance concerns, and questions surrounding how third-party agencies access the network. Couple of cases here where the flock cameras have been successful in helping us apprehend some of these people. So while individual local police press releases often highlight aggregate statistics rather than broadcasting every investigative detail, specific local cases have utilized data from the network. So there's the investigation of Charles Henry Reedy here in Yakima in 2023. In a high-profile local homicide case, Yakima Police Department detectives utilized footage and data from the city's camera network to help identify a vehicle connected to the fatal shooting of a 53-year-old man in an alley off South 7th Street. By comparing surveillance material and matching vehicle characteristics through the flock system, investigators tracked down a suspect vehicle tied to the case, ultimately leading to the identification and second-degree murder's arrest of the suspect. There's also broader department metrics. According to a promotional case, According to promotional case reviews and public data published by law enforcement partnerships, the Yakima Police Department has credited automated license plate readers with helping investigators build timelines or track suspect vehicles across multiple major felony investigations, contributing to dozens of violent crimes and crime and homicide clearances since the technology's local adoption. While local police agencies rely heavily, they heavily emphasize the crime-fighting utility of flock cameras. Their use has sparked substantial pushback and specific allegations regarding data sharing, policy violations, and unintended access in Yakima and the surrounding region. The primary controversy and allegations of misuse tied to the local network include unauthorized federal data sharing and immigrant enforcement. The most prominent local controversy regarding flock data misuse involves immigration enforcement. The UW Center for Human Rights report tells us a comprehensive report released by the University of Washington for Human Rights found that in Yakima, alongside several other regional law enforcement agencies such as Sunnyside and Benton County, appeared to have enabled direct one-to-one data sharing of their flock networks with the U.S. Border Patrol and federal immigration authorities. Policy conflicts that go along with this as well. Local activist groups, including the Central Washington Resistance and the Yakima Response Network, pointed out that this sharing directly contradicted local city policy and the Yakima Police Department's stated rules, which explicitly prohibit using the network for immigration enforcement or violating Washington's Keep Washington Working Act. There's also public pushback that goes along with this. This discovery led to the intense city council debates, petitions bearing hundreds of local signatures, and demands from community organizations to pause or shut down the city's camera network due to broken data sharing boundaries. Another issue that has come out from this misuse: there's broader statewide and national concerns of misuse. Local anxieties have been fueled by high-profile misuses of flock data uncovered in other jurisdictions. Incidences have heavily shaped the local debate here in Yakima. So there's out-of-state, cross-jurisdictional searches. Investigations elsewhere in the country revealed instances where law enforcement officers abused the broader network sharing capabilities to track individuals for personal vendettas, stalking, or out-of-state political investigations, such as tracking a patient who crossed state lines for reproductive care. Yeah, that may happen in a state, like where our state allows certain things and some of our neighboring states don't. There's the public records dilemma. So, following a Washington state court ruling affirming that data captured by automated license plate readers are public records, privacy advocates raised alarms that anyone, including domestic stalkers or bad actors, could theoretically file public records requests or exploit data gaps to map out an individual's routine driving habits, movements, and locations across towns like Yakima. In response to mounting scrutiny over data leaks, cross-agency sharing, and potential tracking abuses, both privacy groups and state lawmakers, through legislation like Washington's driver privacy regulations, have pushed for tighter audit controls, stricter limits on data retention, and absolute bans on sharing local driving data with federal, immigration, or out-of-state entities. So during the 2025 Central Washington State Fair here in Yakima, there was a use of flock cameras during the fair. And there wasn't cars driving around the fairgrounds. So standard flock safety cameras are fundamentally engineered as vehicle fingerprinting and automated license plate reader systems. Their software and optical sensors are explicitly optimized to capture metal plates, bumper stickers, roof racks, and vehicle body styles, not to perform facial recognition or to scan faces of pedestrians walking past. Flock Safety maintains that its public-facing hardware does not process or use facial recognition data. However, the intersection of large public events like the Central Washington State Fair and mass surveillance often blur those technical lines in a couple of ways. There's the first one right here: traffic and perimeter trafficking versus crowd surveillance. So while flock camera cannot pick out faces walking through the fairgrounds midway, local law enforcement does deploy mobile and fixed ALPR setups around the event perimeter, parking lots, and major access corridors like Keys Road or 18th Street surrounding the State Fair Park to monitor the vehicles arriving with missing or endangered individuals, runaways, or suspects. The missing persons overlap. Law enforcement agencies frequently cite the recovery of missing or endangered persons as a primary justification for these networks. In practice, this usually means tracking a vehicle associated with a missing person, an amber or silver alert, rather than scanning the crowd for a face. If a missing person is found or located in connection with the event, it is typically because their vehicle triggered an ALPR hit entering the parking perimeter, allowing officers to intercept the car. If cameras with facial recognition capabilities were utilized directly inside the fairgrounds to look at pedestrian crowds, it would likely have involved a different type of mobile CCTV, a drone or specialized video analytics trailer, rather than standard flock roadside license plate hardware. Nonetheless, the expansion of tech tools at high-traffic regional events like the State Fair remains a core flashpoint for privacy advocates who argue that the net being cast is becoming far too wide. All right, so recently here in Washington State, we just passed Senate Bill 6002 pertaining to the use of flock cameras. And here's what it says. It was signed into law by Governor Bob Ferguson on March 30th of 2026, so not too long ago. Represents Washington State's first comprehensive legal framework governing automated license plate readers, ALRPs, like flock camera systems. It was designed specifically to rein in unregulated expansion of these camera networks, close data loopholes, and establish strict statewide guidelines. Key provisions of this: there's a strict 21-day retention gap. So remember, some of the ones I mentioned earlier, it was actually 30 days. So this one actually puts into play anything after March 30th, 2026, when this bill went through, limits it to 21 days. The law mandates that agencies must permanently delete raw, unassociated license plate data after 21 days, unless it is tied to an active criminal case, a warrant, a valid warrant, or a subpoena. This cut down the default retention periods previously used by many of our networks. There's also a narrowed law enforcement scope, so law enforcement agencies are restricted from using ALPR data for general dragnet surveillance. They can only query or utilize the systems for specific high-priority issues, so stolen vehicles, missing or endangered persons, so amber, silver alerts, vehicles tied to individuals with active felony or gross misdemeanor warrants, a vehicle specifically material to an active felony or gross misdemeanor investigation. There's a ban on federal immigration sharing, so it explicitly prohibits state and local agencies from using ALPR data or networks to assist with federal immigration investigations or enforcement, addressing local concerns raised by groups like the UW Center for Human Rights. There's also prohibited locations tracking, so cameras or data collection are outright prohibited near sensitive community infrastructure such as schools, places of worship, courts, food banks, or healthcare facilities providing reproductive or gender-affirming care. Furthermore, cameras cannot be used to track First Amendment protective activities like peaceful protests. No standalone traffic stops. The law established that a positive ALPR match alone does not provide sufficient legal grounds for a traffic stop. Officers must still develop independent, reasonable suspicion. And then there's the audit trails and accountability. Agents are required to log every single search query, identifying the user, the date, search terms, and the purpose, and maintain those logs for 5 years, alongside mandatory internal compliance audits. Willful violations are classified as gross misdemeanors, and illegally obtained data is explicitly rendered inadmissible in court. And what this means for local networks here in Yakima. So for agencies operated in Yakima and across the valley, SB 6002 forces a technical and policy overhaul. Networks like the one managed by the Yakima Police Department must operate under strict statewide oversight, shorten their data holding window to 21-day threshold, lock out federal immigration sharing pathways, and enforce internal software audits to prevent the kind of unauthorized personal searches that recently made headlines in other states. So I recently discovered that there is a flock camera nearby where I live, and so I wondered how this pertains to the Senate bill. The Senate Bill 6002, it explicitly prohibits state or local agencies from operating or placing an automated license plate reader, that's ALPR system, such as a flock camera, on the premises or in the immediate surrounding area of an elementary or secondary school. This provision was one of the most heavily debated aspects of the bill during its passage in early 2026. So the restriction, law enforcement agencies and municipalities are legally barred from using these readers to collect and the data collection near schools, alongside other sensitive locations like places of worship, as I mentioned earlier, courts, food banks, reproductive or gender-affirming healthcare facilities. The legislative debate that went along with this, opponents of the specific restriction, such as some lawmakers who voted against parts of the bill, argued that the school perimeters are crucial zones where safety monitoring should be allowed to protect children. However, the bill's sponsors and supporters insisted that the ban to prevent blanket surveillance around places where children congregate and to protect community privacy. For local agencies here in Yakima, this means that any fixed camera infrastructure or mobile deployment units must be cleared away from school zones to comply with state law and avoid potential gross misdemeanor penalties for willful violations. So at Franklin Middle School here in Yakima, there is a park next to it, which is Franklin Park. It's on the adjacent property, and there is a flock camera that is pointed. It's on the corner, and it is pointed directly at Franklin Middle School. So whether the specific installation violates Senate Bill 6002 depends on technical interpretations of immediate surrounding area, but it certainly triggers a high scrutiny provision of the law. So if you want to go take a look at this, you can go find it out. It's here from the town right here, but you can also find it. Go ahead and check out DFlock. And if you look at the 98902 area code or the zip code right there, you can see where the camera is placed. And I encourage you to check that out. It looks very, very close to where it is. And, you can make a comment about that. There are ways to file a... now, if you wanted to protest where this is at, to challenge a potentially unlawful camera placement under this new bill that came into law back in March of 2026, you can take two main actionable paths, and I encourage you to do this. You can request records directly from the city to verify its status, or escalating the issue if it violates the school zone ban. So the first thing, you file a public records request with the city, and you go to the sorry about that. You go to the City of Yakima's online records portal, which is records.yakimawa.gov. It's managed via the Records app. And you can ask for this. So submit a targeted public records request to the Yakima Police Department. Keep your description specific so it'll process quickly. Here's what you can say. Copies of all installation logs, deployment justifications, and registration documents filed pursuant to ESSB 6002 for the automated license plate reader, ALPR, camera installed on or around July-August of 2026 at the intersection of Stanley Boulevard and West Chestnut Avenue. Approximate coordinates are 46.5961386 and the other one is negative 120.5377358, pointing at a direction of 151 degrees. Like that'll give you the exact location of the camera. Step 2 in this is to report potential noncompliance to the Attorney General's office. Under SB 6002, all state and local agencies operating ALPR systems must register them with the Washington State Attorney General's office and certify that they strictly meet all legal requirements, including the total ban on placing them in the immediate surrounding area of schools. If the school's records show the camera is active, yet its placement clearly violates the school zone restriction, given its proximity to Franklin Middle School or any other school that you may notice, you can contact the Washington State Attorney General's office to report a systematic noncompliance issue with the newly established ALPR registry system. You can reach out via their main office contact portal or check the Washington State AGO ALPR page for agency registration and compliance reporting details. And then there's also step 3, local oversight and public comment. Because this camera was put up very recently, bringing it directly to local leadership is often the fastest way to force a review. You can attend or submit a public comment to the Yakima City Council, noting the exact location, the 151-degree vector toward the Franklin Middle School, and the explicit restrictions mandated by SB 6002. These are things I encourage you to do. You can also check out dflock.org for more cameras around there. Let's get these things, well, I mean, it depends on where you're at with them. If you like them, great. But if you don't, there are steps to take them out, and there's actually a bill in place, and some of them are in violation of that bill. So I'm all for following the law, and I'm also for keeping our rights. So as we went through the flock debate today, hope this was helpful. Hope it covered some things for you. And if you've got any questions or comments, go ahead and fire those at me. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about it. Hope you have a great day.